Welcome to Burn the Ship. This is the podcast where we connect entrepreneurs with professionals that can help you go all in on your business. We talk to people that have walked the walk, talked the talk, been through all the things that we experience as small business owners, and joined our platform willing to share those skills and experiences with us so that we can run our businesses more effectively. Thank you very much for being here. First of all, it's very, very kind of you to spend some of your time with me and some of the time with the audience. The goal of this podcast is to learn for myself, help the audience learn, and disseminate some of the information from people that are working really, really hard to be good business owners. So, thanks for being here. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, pleasure to be here, Bailey. My name is attorney Vishrut Shelat. I also go by Vish as my nickname. And I'm the founder and owner of the Baj Law Group PLLC, also known affectionately as the BAJ Law Group. And we are a premier boutique immigration, criminal defense, and business law firm in the heart of Washington, D.C. We serve clients in all over the world and, of course, all 50 states for immigration law and exclusively focus for criminal defense and business law in DC. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to preface our conversation a little bit for the audience by just telling them some assumptions that I made that I found incorrect. I think that most people would assume, whether it's from watching Suits or just assuming the type of people that become lawyers or whatever that may be, that lawyers are incredible business people and that that's learned behavior and something that you're taught very frequently. And I had an opportunity with a large law firm local to me that weren't incredible business people, and they were very transparent about that. They knew what they didn't know and hired people to be good at the things that they weren't necessarily good at or skilled at. So kind of the reason for me going on this little legal kick is to understand how do people learn the art of being of the business side of being a lawyer, which was just a little crazy to me. I think that what you do as far as the investment of time to learn your craft is so much, that the rubber doesn't really meet the road until you are able to master some of those business skills. um, Not to say that you have mastered any or that you have not. I really don't know. I think that there's just such a wide spectrum of the business acumen in the legal world that I wanted to try and get a little finger on the pulse of some of that stuff. So tell me a story. How did you get started and when did you transition into doing what you do now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for asking those questions, and they're really thoughtful. Well, my story is very complex. So originally, me and my family, we come from India, in a state called Gujarat, which is Western India. It borders Pakistan. It's like the westernmost state of India, right? It's kind of like the California in a way.
Hmm.
And we immigrated here in during Y2K 1999. My dad came on a H-1B visa. And our story was like many other immigrants. We wanted to sort of contribute to the country and lay our foundations. My father immigrated here primarily because there were not a lot of tech opportunities in India at that point. The country was not as accepting of tech as it is today. It was sort of the early stages of tech, and he was an entrepreneur. He had his own business. In fact, the first serious computer company in Gujarat. And so when he came over here, his dream was to sort of move to a country that would recognize tech. And my story growing up was very much the typical immigrant story. We moved from state to state, region to region, based on my dad's job, a contract. So I'd make friends and then I had to restart the process. The downside was, I'd lose friends and I'd have to restart. And as a kid, that was pretty tough. And then, of course, growing up, it helped me to learn about different cultures of America. How, even though we're one country, there's so much diversity. I lived in the South. I've dealt with Southern people, the more conservative aspects. I've lived up north, extreme liberal people. I've just learned that, we are one people, we are all Americans, and we all have a shared nationality, even though we have so much differences. And I think that's what makes this country beautiful. And then into the law field, I've always wanted to be a lawyer. I was fascinated with public speaking. I was very opinionated, and I loved to have intellectual discussions with people growing up. It was never about who's right or who's wrong. It was more about learning, right? And I feel that the public forum is the best means to do that. See, you growing up have had a unique experience that I can't replicate, and likewise for me to you. And if we have a discussion and we share our unique insights, we learn from each other. And I can't imagine what it's like to be Bailey. You can't imagine what it's like to be Vish. But when we share and collaborate our stories, I learn a lot more than I would have otherwise. My assumptions get broken down and so on, as long as I'm receptive, right? And and I think that's what's beautiful about America, but that's also what's missing about America right now. So I got into immigration law because I saw the challenges that the immigrant community was facing. And of course, I always understood that every country has a right to regulate its own immigration policy, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I also saw that a lot of people were getting their due process rights violated and getting deported even when they were doing everything correctly. We've seen cases by ICE just where people are showing up, doing their fingerprints, doing everything they need to, and they still get detained, right? So it's for stuff like that I was seeing since the early 2020s when I graduated from law school that made me decide that let me take a knack at it. I mean, my dad was always big on immigration, and he was not a lawyer, but he understood immigration law. You have to know your rights when you're in any country.
Sure.
So I taught myself, I educated myself, and I took on a couple of big cases after I got out of law school. There was a Hindu temple case in the Edison area. It was a big case where the FBI and they were investigating it, and they hired me to be one of the supporting lawyers in the case. That was my first big bite at the apple of litigation, and I got to learn a lot. And I realized that this is an amazing field. It's exactly what I want to do. But the next thing was I really had to understand who I was. And I realized I couldn't be happy working a typical 9 to 5 big law firm job. I wanted to create something of my own because it was never about the money. It was never about any of that. It was about the idea of creating your own path and building something based on your own values and ideology. And you can't put a price on that, the price of freedom. So on September 9th of 2023, after I had gotten 2 years of experience after being barred in May of or April of 2021, I decided that it's time to try the Baj Law Group. I was, down to the last savings that I had from my previous contract jobs. And I said, I'll take a knack at it. If I fail, I'll get it out of my system and I'll be going back into the typical 9 to 5. And it was the best decision I made because it really resonated with who I am, which is someone who is an entrepreneur. We come from a long line of businessmen, starting from my dad, my grandfather, etc., and it's in our blood. And I wanted to show the world that I could make something, and not just only for myself, but to help people. I wanted to make a business that was delivering a quality service to all people, right? Doesn't matter where you come from, what you look like. If you need help, you can come to us. That was my vision, and that's what we did. That's what we did, and that's what we're doing right now.
So the thing that I think is so interesting about your story is that you knew where your path was taking you. You knew to some degree what you wanted the end result to be in this entrepreneurship seat wearing the business owner hat. And the impulse for that for you internally is rooted both in your why and your experiences,
Right.
right? Like your life experiences applies to why you want to help people do what you want to help people do. Um, where when you start, when you make this decision, you decide day one, how are you running your business? Is it a mimicry of some of the other things that you had seen on contractual obligations for yourself? Was there a mentoring or a group of people that you were asking questions to? What was that support system for the beginning of that journey, which is very lonely, to be quite frank?
Absolutely, and it was lonely. And the biggest challenge I had was I had no mentors in the field. And the reason I say that is, yes, I worked jobs, I had some good connections, but ultimately the legal field is very, very closed off. And the reason for that is that if you study the law field in general, right, to become a lawyer, you have to go through so much trials. You have to go to the bar exam, you have to go to 3 years of law school. It's a natural process of filtering out people from the very beginning. And many states have a minimum requirement to accept a certain amount of people for their bars, right? And the reason for that is they want to make sure that the pie is not cut in too many pieces. They want to have
Sure.
a bigger piece of the pie for the lawyers who are already barred. No one says this, but effectively, if you analyze it, that's a reasonable conclusion.
Sure.
And for me, it was a lonely journey, but I realized if I don't try myself, no one is going to save me. No one is going to give me the golden, keys into the kingdom. I have to build it myself. And I the first thing I did was I analyzed the market, as any businessman should, right? You have to know your target audience. First, figure out what's in demand, and then see if that resonates with what you want to do. There's two types of philosophies that people have. The first philosophy is I'll do whatever job pays me the most, right? That's fine. You can make money, you can get the economic foundation, but you won't be happy because ultimately, if you're doing this every single day and you're not happy, you can't continue it for too long. You're going to burn out, right? That's true for any job, right? And then the second dimension is okay, I'll do the middle path. I'll see what's in demand and I'll see if, let's say, if there's 10 factors in that job, and I'll see if there's five or seven resonate with what I like to do, right?
Right.
For the other three, I will train myself or I will find creative ways to make it more suitable to my nature, right? That's what I did effectively. I chose immigration because I deeply believed in what was going on. So that was one checkbox. It was in the legal field, litigation, right? But immigration had one problem, which is the barriers to entry. All of the law firms, the big law firms, only hire from the top 10 law schools. It's true for any field. And I thought, okay, well, I went to Vermont Law School, which is not, the top 10 law school. It's one of the best schools for environmental law, which is what I thought I wanted to do when I went to law school. But then I was like, okay, well, I can't, market that. So what do I do? I said, oh, the only way to do it is create my own brand, make something of my own, and make it one of the biggest law firms by myself. And the first step to anything is you have to overcome fear. There's going to be 100 doubts in your mind. All the demons in your mind are going to tell you, you can't do this. What if it goes wrong? What if you get malpractice? What if blah, 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 right? And the truth is, all of those things could have happened, to be honest. Could have gotten malpractice, could have gotten um, bankrupt, could not have found any clients, right? A lot of it was faith. I don't want to put too much, religion into this, but I had a very spiritual mindset. Everything I did through my beliefs as a Hindu, practicing Hindu. That was what inspired me. And whatever religion you believe, whether you're Christian, Muslim, doesn't matter, right? We all have our own beliefs, and that's beautiful. That's America in general. So I say, like, there's always going to be something to make you doubt. But the best thing to do is just get your hands dirty. And yes, have a plan. I had a plan. I said, okay, I'm going to give myself 1 year. In 1 year, if I can't at least break even in this business model, I'll have to do two things. Either I will have to change the field I'm in, meaning change from immigration law to something else, or possibly consider liquidating the law firm and finding other paths. But I realized from early on that immigration was big in the market and I resonated with what I wanted to do. Then I created a business plan. I had a business major in my undergrad. So I knew SWOT analysis, I knew market analysis. I implemented that and I realized that, okay, what are all the immigration lawyers doing right now? Well, they're taking advantage of the current market. They're overcharging. So if the average asylum case is roughly, they're charging eight to $10,000 minimum, and some of them are even charging more, like 12, 13, etc., right? Well, then I realized that there's a whole underbelly of clients who don't get represented. Okay, so how do you make that up? Well, you make it a volume-based business model, right?
Hmm.
You charge less, but you make it up by referrals, and once you do a great job, the clients will continuously get you nonstop cash flow, right? And in order to do that, you hire a good staff. So I had to do a parallel process. Start the revenue stream by winning cases, getting referrals, and then obviously get a good paralegal support system so that I could continue to take on the cases. Because no matter how good of a lawyer you are, if you don't have a good team, you're gonna end up crashing and burning.
Absolutely.
100%.
So tell me this from a and not a very specific answer, but a high level answer, right? Like when you start your business, there's this never ending list of things, and I mean never ending. Like the more that you think about it, the more things you can put on this list of things that need to be done for your business. Technology. How do we communicate with clients? How do we handle marketing? Um, how do we go about staffing ourselves? All of these different things that can turn into these one task after another that are easily achievable, check offable tasks, but they essentially mean nothing if the whole ecosystem of tasks isn't complete. How do you go about simplifying that list for yourself? How do you make it so that it doesn't seem so daunting that it's like paralysis by analysis and nothing ever gets done, which I think is a very common thing for entrepreneurs in general. I'll double down on the fact that your industry is probably the most prevalent that I've ever seen it personally. Um, your industry tends to push the software needs to the back or push the staffing needs to the back. We'll handle the technology stuff later. We'll email or call a client back when we have an opportunity because the perception internally and the perception of the outside world is you're busy, whether that is true or not. So tell me, how do you compartmentalize some of this stuff and just start navigating stuff one brick at a time?
So the best way I do is I make a flow chart. And what I mean by that is I look at what is immediately the most important thing, right? And I don't mean the most important thing for my goals. I mean the most important thing for the business because there's two different lines of thoughts, right? There's a thoughts of me, Vishrut Shelat, the business owner, like how much money I want to earn, how, what are my individual goals as a lawyer, right? How many cases I want to win, etc. But then there's a Baj Law Group PLLC. Okay, I made a law firm. It's a single member PLLC law firm, right? I'm hiring paralegals. What is the most important thing? Well, the first thing I would think of as in my industry is, okay, I need a reliable stream of clients coming in. So my first thought process is, okay, I need to establish what I'm good at right now. What is my knowledge base? Now, when I first started immigration law, I was a greenhorn. I didn't know anything, right? And my only thought process was, okay, the only thing I know is filling out an asylum form, right? Or filling out an I-130, which is a marriage visa form, right? Which anyone can do. Now, even non-immigrant immigration lawyers can do that. So I said, okay, let me focus on that, what I know, because that's what I can make money off of. That's what I can market right now, right? So the strength for any entrepreneur is number one, what they can do now. What is their limitation? What is their knowledge? Once they know that, then they can start a marketing plan based on the demand of that. And then, of course, because you're new in the field, you don't have contacts, you don't know anyone, you haven't really built a rep at that time, you undersell. If the average immigration lawyer is charging 8,000 for an I-130 or 6,000 for an asylum, you do 50% or lower. And that way you start the clientele that can't afford the big shot lawyers, the big shot law firms, right? And you have to humble yourself in order to do that because I notice a lot of these things in the law field, particularly that when law students go through 3 years of law school, they have this mindset that I should be making 200K, 300K, even 100K starting, right? But the truth is, in any business field, you have to invest in yourself before you can expect others to invest in you, right? And what I mean by that is you have to up your knowledge, you have to up your experience before you can show the world what you're really capable of. If you met me in 2023 and you meet me right now, completely different mindset, right? At that point, I was very, the whole imposter syndrome that all law
Sure.
have, right? I don't know what I was doing. I was scared, right? Right now, of course, through experience, you become more knowledgeable. And that's the key point. You have to, number one, look at what you can immediately do in your checklist, right? Is it I-130s, asylums? Check. Okay. Then you have to see what the competition is offering. Okay, competition is saying 10,000, 8,000, 6,000. Okay, fine. That's cool. I'll start with 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. Now you're offering something that they can compete with, lower price, right? Everyone wants to save a penny, especially immigrants. Number three, knowledge. Okay, most people have an employee mindset when they're entrepreneurs. I'll work from 9 to 5. I'll take the day off. You can't do that. You gotta constantly grind. If you're not sleeping, showering, or eating, even eating, in my opinion, right?
Right.
Even if
Yeah.
you grab a sandwich, you're on your laptop. Does not
Yeah.
matter. Study up, go to hit the library, don't go to the club, don't do anything, right? That
Mm-hmm.
involves, yeah, it's a sacrifice, right?
Yeah,
I had a lot
absolutely.
of friends saying, Vish, you're such a fun guy. Hang out with us. Let's party. Let's have fun. And I say, listen, guys, I'm trying to do something right now. It's really important. Let's meet up, we'll still hang out. Let's meet up every once in a while, but I can't hang out. I can't do this. I gotta grind, right?
Yeah.
If they're
Well,
really
my dad told me, and I think that it sticks to this same point. He used to tell me, "Don't act like an idiot between 20 and 30, and you'll really appreciate during between 30 and 40." And that stuck with me for a really, really long time. And I started in my industry when I was 20, 19, maybe. So I can relate. I agree with you.
and your dad is a wise man, and my dad told me the same thing. And I think often you need that strong father figure as well to get you, as a young man, you're trying to navigate the world and you don't know what to do. We're always trying to fit in, we're always trying to impress, right?
Absolutely.
But we have to invest in ourselves first because as a man, I've always found that the service you provide to the world is how you're evaluated. And I truly do believe that. And whenever, right now, I feel so happy because I'm able to provide legal advice to my family, to all the relatives who are otherwise unsure. Will I be able to enter the country if I go on a vacation overseas? Um, will I get deported? Right? So I can provide that and I can give um, protection to the community, right? And this applies to anything, whatever you do. It doesn't have to be a lawyer. It could be IT, it could be whatever, right? It's to provide service for your own community, for your people, and that's when it's as men we become the most happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That insecurity turns into such confidence and happiness and the status that you've created for your life that it is extremely rewarding. What's been difficult? If you could go back and teach yourself something from day one that you know today, what would you pick?
I will say this. I will say calmness is very difficult to have, and it's the most essential thing to have. See, at least I can't speak for other people, but one challenge I've had as an individual is when I get excited.
Mm,
You're going to have so many opportunities in any entrepreneurship project where you get excited. And I'll tell you what I mean specifically. Around the year of 2024, I met a business partner of mine, and he was one of the pivotal forces to really get me out of my shell and to become more confident and to take risks, right? I was very conservative in my business approach, always saving a penny, never really thinking about making big moves. He taught me otherwise, right? And to this day, I'm very grateful to him because he did help me grow in that regard. And one of the biggest challenges I had was whenever a big opportunity came by, I would get too excited. And my intellectual side would get overshadowed by my passionate and impulsive side. And whenever that happens, you tend to get yourself into situations that you can't handle, whether it's taking on too many cases or whether it's taking on projects for which there's no infrastructure set in, right?
hmm
So the number one challenge I will say is make sure that your passion and your drive is controlled and your ambition does not um, overshadow your intellect and your analysis of the situation. Be
Right.
logical always.
Right. Yeah. And I think that an important value is being able to temper your expectations in both directions without um, applying your own emotional stance to the way someone may react to you, right? It's being able to say, I'm not going to, count my chickens before the eggs hatch, but at the same time, I'm not going to count myself out of a deal or revenue generating opportunity until someone tells me no. Even perceptually in my head, the percent chances of winning something like this may be low. I think that there's a real value in being able to discern not riding the highs too high and not taking the lows too low that creates solidarity in your business. And especially when you build a team, those people will appreciate that solidarity. If you are hiring people and those people ride that roller coaster with you, I can almost certainly tell you that they won't be there for a very, very long time. It's really mentally and emotionally difficult to navigate those things that your business owner, decision maker is also riding the highs and ups and downs. It creates uncertainty for people. So tempering your expectations and doing exactly what you said, which is not getting too excited or not looking too far ahead, staying rooted in and true in the knowledge that you have accumulated and being able to apply that as efficiently and effectively as possible is a real skill. I say that to say that if you are a new entrepreneur, it's going to happen to you. It is inevitable. You are going to get super excited about something that hurts your feelings, or you're going to get a yes out of nowhere when you thought for sure that you were going to get a no. You have to look at that and discern that there is a law of averages for those things, that there may be outliers, and even you will experience the outliers. But you have to remain like the biggest, a really good example that I see is when salespeople have a really, really good month of sales. Like,
Yes.
oh, I did five, six, 7 deals this month. I'm unstoppable, king of the world. Everybody's saying yes to me. Well, there's two issues with that, potential issues. One is, are you going to apply the same amount of effort that you applied last month to this month while you're closing all of these deals to be able to maintain this pace next month? And two, even if you do maintain this type of production next month, how excited are you going to be about it? What is the impact that it has to your life? Is this something that you're going to be able to emotionally sustain, or is this going to lead you to burnout? And being able to discern those things, I think, comes with a lot of experience. And I think that the words that you shared, which is temper your or at least be aware that you're going to have to check yourself sometimes, is super, super valuable. So,
100%.
um, well, tell me this: where do people find you if they need your help, if they want to hire you, if they have the needs in the disciplines that you are proficient in? Where do they go?
Oh, well, thank you. The best way is, of course, on LinkedIn. You can search my name up, Vishrut, Shelat, first name, last name. Another easy way is WhatsApp. Always on WhatsApp, and you can get my number, which is 571 246 7900. And that's, you just shoot a message, and me or my team will come up. And how we do things differently is typically other law firms have like a system where you have to go through so much before you can meet the lawyer. I try to be as involved as I can and do the consultations and do the first meetings with the clients because I want them to think that, listen, like you're paying for a lawyer, you should see the lawyer and not just
Yep.
hand it off to the paralegals all the time. Of course, it's team effort, right? So that's how we like to do it. So
Well, it's good to know that the lawyer is valuing that relationship as well.
yeah,
You know what I mean? You want your lawyer to know your name and not be case number whatever, or
exactly.
a stack of paper on their desk that keeps getting shuffled to the bottom because they'll do it later. You want to at least have the feel and perception that someone values your business.
Exactly.
So I applaud you for that. And my last question for you is, how can we help? What do you have coming up? What are your goals? What are something that we can do to make this journey easier for you? Is it social media or marketing or an event, or what can we help you promote as a way of saying thank you for all the value that you've brought us?
Well, thank you so much for offering. And I'd just like to continue having these discussions. There's a lot to talk about in immigration law. We're starting our own podcast ourselves, and we're getting more consistent in uploading episodes. There's a lot of changes happening in immigration law. And I just don't do immigration law. We do business, as I mentioned as well. So if your audience is more into like starting a business, LLC versus S corp, the financial aspects, we discuss those as well. So we can continue to do these episodes and sort of share our wisdom. I'd love to learn more from you as well, doing what
Sure.
you do. And yeah, it's a great experience. I really enjoyed this podcast.
Well, thank you. For anyone listening, we will have Vish's information down in the description, everywhere that we can find you on social media, your website, all of that stuff. I appreciate very much your time again. I think that you have much success headed to you in the future. Your candor, the way that you speak and carry yourself, and the value that you put on bringing value to your clients really speaks for itself. So I'm glad that you guys that are listening got an opportunity to meet Vish. I'm glad that you trusted my platform for being able to host you. So if you're listening out there, please take a chance on yourself. Burn the ship. I promise if I can figure it out, you probably have a really, really good chance. And if it's difficult, we'll help. So please share this with someone that's interested in being a business owner. And until next time, burn the ship.
Thank you, Bailey. I couldn't have summarized it better myself, and I love your humility, and I just love the entire experience. Thank you so much, man.
Anytime. Until next time, see you guys.
Bye.